there's a strange kind of fear. It's not the fear of ghosts. It's not even fear of being alone. It's the fear that your own body could betray you. Because tonight we're talking about the sleepwalking killer, a man who reportedly committed a horrifying crime while he was asleep, the night that changed everything. It was around 2:30 a.m., a quiet suburban street in Toronto. Cold wind, streetlights flickering. Inside one small house, a man named Kenneth Parks slept peacefully. At least that's what it looked like. According to reports, Kenneth was 23 years old. A normal guy, worked at an auto shop, loved his wife, played with his baby daughter. But that night something went wrong, terribly wrong. Around 2:45 a.m., Kenneth got out of bed, not fully awake, not fully asleep. His eyes were open, but blank. He walked out of the house barefoot. He got into his car. Yes, his car. And he drove 14 miles across the city, still asleep. According to investigators, his drive was smooth. No signs of panic. No sign of awareness. He parked outside his in-laws' house, walked to the front door, and went inside. Moments later, screams filled the air. The unthinkable act. Inside the home were Barbara Woods, his wife's mother, and her husband. Neighbors later said they heard thuds, glass breaking, a woman's cry. When police arrived, Barbara was found dead, her husband badly injured, and Kenneth? He had driven straight to the police station, still in his sleepwear, covered in blood. He walked in and reportedly said, "I think I've killed someone, my hands." He looked down. His hands were cut, bleeding. Then he collapsed. Officers said he looked confused, almost childlike, like he didn't understand where he was. And when they asked him what happened, he said he didn't remember anything. No anger, no argument, no reason to kill. He just remembered going to bed. The investigation. The police were stunned. How could a man drive miles, murder someone, and claim he was sleeping the entire time? Tests were done. Doctors examined him for days. They checked his brain waves, interviewed his family. And here's where it gets strange. Every test suggested that Kenneth did have a sleep disorder, specifically something called somnambulism, a condition where people can walk, talk, even eat while asleep. But drive a car and commit murder? That was beyond belief. Still, according to experts who studied the case, his actions matched patterns seen in extreme cases of sleepwalking. Automatic, emotionless, almost robotic. The courtroom shock. When the trial began, the media went wild. Headlines read, "The Sleepwalking Killer. Dreams Turned Deadly." The prosecution said Kenneth was lying. They said he must have planned it, that he was awake and angry. But his defense team argued something different. They showed medical reports. They brought in sleep experts. They even showed that Kenneth had been under extreme stress, losing money, working long hours, barely sleeping. One expert testified that his brain scans looked exactly like those of someone in a deep sleep. After weeks of testimony, the jury made their decision, and it shocked the world. Kenneth Parks was found not guilty of murder, not guilty of assault, because the jury believed he was sleepwalking. Imagine that. You go to bed, and you wake up accused of killing someone you love. Was he really asleep? Now, this story sounds unbelievable. Some people still don't buy it. They say, no one can do all that while asleep, but sleep scientists say otherwise. According to reports, people have done some shocking things. While sleepwalking, there are stories of people cooking meals, driving, even jumping from windows without memory afterward. But violence, that's rare. Some experts say stress, alcohol, and lack of sleep can trigger violent sleepwalking episodes. Others believe it's a mix of brain chemistry and genetics. Still, no one really knows. That's what makes this case so haunting, because it's real. It happened, and it could happen again. The science behind it. During deep sleep, our brains are partly shut down, but not completely. Parts that control movement. They can sometimes wake up while the rest of the brain is still asleep. That's when people start to walk or talk in their sleep. They're not dreaming, they're doing. In Kenneth's case, scientists believed his brain's motor control turned on while his judgment centers stayed off, meaning he could act, but he couldn't choose. That's what made his crime so terrifying, because it wasn't driven by anger. It was driven by something deeper, something primal, like his body had become its own monster. The aftermath. After his acquittal, Kenneth's life was never the same. He reportedly sought therapy and treatment for his sleep disorder. He tried to rebuild his life, but the world never forgot his name. Some called him a miracle of science. Others called him a murderer who got away. And every few years, his story surfaces again, in documentaries, podcasts, and horror shows, because it raises one chilling question. If your body commits a crime while you're asleep, are you the killer? Other cases like it. Kenneth's case isn't the only one. There have been others. In 2008, a man in Wales reportedly strangled his wife. While sleepwalking, he was later found not guilty. Another case in Arizona, a teenager was found outside his house, holding a knife, with no memory of what he'd done inside. Scientists call these parasomnias, uncontrolled actions during sleep. Each case adds another layer of mystery. How much control do we really have when our brains switch between waking and dreaming? What sleepwalkers remember, people who've experienced sleepwalking, say it feels like a fog. You move, but the world feels far away. You wake up tired, confused, sometimes terrified by what you've done. One man said he once found himself standing outside his house, in winter barefoot. Another said he woke up midway through cooking breakfast at 3 a.m. So imagine taking that and adding fear, stress, and confusion. It's easy to see how things can spiral out of control. Lessons from the sleepwalking killer. The story of Kenneth Parks isn't just horror, it's a warning. It reminds us that the human brain is still one of the most mysterious things in the universe. That sleep, something we all do, can turn dangerous in ways we barely understand. Scientists say we spend 1/3 of our lives asleep, yet most of what happens in that state remains unexplored. So the next time you see someone sleepwalking, remember, they might not be awake, but something inside them is. And if you ever find yourself waking up with scratches, bruises, or objects moved around, you might want to set up a camera, because sometimes our dreams walk among us, and that's the story of the sleepwalking killer.